Hi everyone, we're here today with Jacquelyn Villano from Real Safe Title. She's going to give us all the info on what you need to know about title insurance in North Jersey for your real estate transaction.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for joining us.
My pleasure, thank you.
One of the things we always get is from our clients or buyers, what is title insurance? And it's one of those things we go, I know, I learned it in real estate school, but it's been a long time. And what is the best way to simply explain that?
I mean, in a nutshell, title insurance is a one-time insurance policy that's paid at the commencement of closing by the buyer side in the state of New Jersey. The buyer is responsible for the policy that protects them against any undisclosed liens, encumbrances, or really anything that's going to challenge their ownership as the new buyer of the home. Title insurance is different from most other types of insurance where you have like a home or an auto policy. You would pay a policy, sometimes it's renewable at the end of every year, and it would insure you against future instances. Title insurance actually protects you against past instances. So when you hire a title insurance company, we conduct almost like a background investigation of the home, which is, I guess, the best way to explain it. We will search any type of open liens, again, any encumbrances on the property that we might find. We find the legal description and any judgments, taxes, or any open municipal assessments, and we would provide that to both the attorneys, the lender, if there's one involved, and let all parties know really what's open on the property, the real property, and what needs to be resolved in order to for the new buyer to take title and have us record the documents without, again, any encumbrances to them owning the home. They want to know that they own that property outright, subject to the lender if there's one involved also.
So just to decode a little bit, because I think the average, especially first-time homeowners, what is a lien exactly?
Sure. I mean, most properties, if you did a search on anyone's property in New Jersey, they would come up with an open mortgage. So that would be considered a lien. Other types of liens you might see would be an IRS lien for unpaid taxes. So those usually end up being some of the more substantial and difficult ones to deal with. Some other ones we see often might be a mechanic's lien. So new construction is often one that is misunderstood when it comes to someone purchasing and closing and getting title insurance, because they think, well, the home is brand new, there really can't be any liens on it, but you have a contractor who's provided a service and maybe they haven't paid their subcontractors, and those individuals or those companies can also place a lien on the property if they haven't been paid. So mechanics liens, tax liens, and really open mortgages or HELOCs would be like the more common ones that we see open. And it's not that they can't be resolved, it's just that we have to make sure that they're resolved prior to closing.
So a buyer can be rest assured that once they have the title, the property is free and clear, it is theirs, they don't have to worry about somebody sticking up their head later on. What if something is missed? What happens then? Right.
So that's a great question. What title companies really insure at the end of the day is their search. So anything that's undisclosed, if a scenario here, if someone closed on a property and 3 months down the line, someone knocked on your door or sent a past due bill, a lien or something like that they said, oh, we filed on the property with the previous owner, and you go back to the title search and it was missed, that's cause for a title insurance claim. So it's the title company's job to do that due diligence. Things do happen, things get misrecorded in the county all the time, or paperwork gets lost, things like that. So that you want the buyer to be rest assured that if something like that happened, now once they move into the home, then everything is their responsibility. But as far as the seller, and sometimes even a seller before that, prior owner judgments might pop up. But if you have a title insurance policy, they've committed to covering those issues in the past, and the title company feels like they've done their due diligence and all those items have been closed out. And it's of course in the best interest of the title company to make sure that they don't have any exceptions on the policy, not just for the title company because they don't want to have to pay out a claim.
Absolutely.
They don't want the buyer to have to deal with any type of exceptions where they know something might pop up and cause them any risk to them owning the home.
So, so talking about liens then, yes. I think sellers should also probably be aware that they should try to find out before they get to the closing table what might be going on with their property and make sure they've paid all their bills and that they don't have anything weird going on that's going to affect the sale of their property.
So I think that where you see a lot of issues is if someone perhaps has an estate sale, or someone maybe passes away, and that person who passed away is the person who's responsible for paying a lot of bills. Things might pile up, and again, if someone's selling a home that's an estate sale, the person who's selling it might not be really aware of anything that was going on with the house. So it is important. The attorneys that we work with, we generally, hope that they would order the title work early on. Ordering it when you get out of attorney review really gives them ample opportunity, and especially the seller side, to hopefully review the title commitment and any open items. Because if you're ordering things like a payoff, or there's a judgment, you need some type of discharge to be ordered for the sellers, you don't want to be attempting to order that a week before closing. Depending on what bank you're dealing with to obtain a payoff, if you're dealing with the IRS, or you're dealing with mortgage company, or maybe it's a USDA loan or some type of government loan, you could be talking easily 10 days to get sufficient documentation, and you certainly don't want to be delaying a closing as a result of that. So, going into or coming out of attorney review, going under contract, hopefully the buyer's attorney is ordering that nice and early, and it gives the seller's attorney time to review that information with their seller so they can start working on getting those items cleared up. If you know as a seller that there's an issue going on with the property, then sometimes the attorney can just order it ahead of time, or reach out to a title company just to do a quick search, like a lien search or judgment search, to kind of find out what's going on before they really list the property, and gives them ample time to work on those items.
And how do you base the fee for a title policy?
Sure. It's a little bit less shoppable, so to speak, than other types of insurance, because title companies go based off of a strict rate manual in the state of New Jersey. So even with insurance, even with settlement, we're pretty regulated on cost. So if you called 10 title insurance companies and you were purchasing a $500,000 home, every title insurance company would have to bill out the same amount for insurance, regardless of you purchase a standard policy or an enhanced policy. Everyone would charge the same. So it's less shoppable than other types of insurance, or shopping for a lender's rate. And because of that, most consumers and attorneys and realtors choose their title company based on what company provides them the best value and who provides the best service. At the end of the day, they want to be able to make a phone call and walk through that title insurance commitment if there's any problems, and make sure that those problems are solved, and that it's a company that they trust. So we find that it's mostly based on service. Again, especially because of the attorneys in northern New Jersey, or throughout the state of New Jersey, I should say, but since we're in northern New Jersey, I'll use that as an example. Majority of the clients are legally represented by attorneys, so we do a lot of our communication directly through the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney. They want to feel like they have one point of contact that they trust at the title company, who they get solid communication from.
The title companies in New Jersey, at least recently in our experience, are the ones who are really responsible for the closing and putting all the documentation and things together at the last minute. So that's something I think that clients don't realize also, is that, it is important, that service level, I think, because, they're gathering all the documents at the end, and that's kind of a big deal. There's a lot to sign when you go to that closing table, and making sure that everything is accurate and correct. So what do you find that, buyers should know about that, about getting to that closing table?
Right.
What's important for them to know?
So again, there's not a whole lot of direct interface with the buyer on the title company side. Most of the times, unless the client is hiring us directly or they're not working with a real estate attorney, we find that the first time we really talk to the client is at the closing. And post 2013, we had a big change in the regulation in the real estate industry and banking industry, and the title companies took on more of a role of the settlement agent. And what that essentially means is that we receive the buyer's funds, the lender's wire, everything's running through our escrow account, and we're the disbursement agent. So we will collect those funds, we will pay off any mortgages, anything that has to be paid as a result of the closing, essentially. So commissions, legal fees, any taxes. We also record the documents in the county to make sure the title is transferred properly to the new buyer. So our first interaction is mostly going to be at the closing table with the client. We would send a representative from our company to handle the mortgage signing documents at the attorney's office. And I think when you get closer to the time of closing, it's so important to have good communication with the closing department at the title company, because that is going to be how quickly you get your final closing statement. And of course it depends on the bank that you have as well, but we really touch every single party in the transaction as far as communication wise. We work with the bank, we work with both attorneys, the realtors, to collect any information we need from them, and not just commission statements, but is there a final water reading, is there anything like oil or propane reading that needs to be included as a result of the sale, things like that. So we kind of collect all that information at the time of closing, make sure everything's accounted for both the buyer and the seller, and make sure everything's paid appropriately. Again, as a settlement agent, we have a due diligence to make sure any open mortgages are paid off, all their taxes are brought current to the township, things like that.
Yeah. From the real estate agent point of view, this really does make a very big difference at the end of a transaction. I can't tell you how many times I've had to emergency notarize documents, or we're driving around trying to collect things from clients because it wasn't told ahead of time. There's a lot of things that not so great title agencies can miss, or can make it more difficult at the end. So that's one thing we love about having like real pros that we work with, is just having all of that stuff very calmly organized before closing day when it's emergency time.
Absolutely. I mean,
your team. You always talk about that. You want your team.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'd rather have. I love that saying. It's better to be proactive than reactive. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times in this business, it is emotional, but there's check boxes, and we really have to work our way through them in order to get to that closing table and get that stress level away. It's stressful enough for the buyers and the sellers. If we can do our job and make sure those things are done ahead of time, or taken care of, or they're aware of it, it makes it so much better and smoother.
Sure.
Which is what it needs to be.
No surprises. You don't
That's
want
a big
clients
thing.
to be surprised. Again, it all goes down to, like I mentioned, having your team. You want to be able to, even if you don't have the answer, you want to be able to pick up the phone and call someone, and have a partner who's going to be able to answer that phone call and put your client at ease, and put everyone involved at ease. When you get to the closing, you don't want the client to be surprised by anything. I mean, things happen. You have a walkthrough, something doesn't go the way they want it to, but when you get to the closing table, it's supposed to be, an enjoyable experience, and we like to have them in and out and, celebrating in no time, but we want them to feel after they close that they have all their questions answered, and that they feel comfortable with, at least, our service and our product that we've provided, and they feel at ease.
Buying a home is usually the biggest purchase of someone's life. So it really is something where you want to make sure that you've not only invested in the house, you've invested in good representation between the realtors, the home inspectors, the title company, your attorneys. You want to make sure that everybody that is touching your purchase is going to give you the top level service, because you don't want to skimp on that. It is, like I said, the biggest investment you will make.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we always, if a client isn't sure about what title insurance is and not sure why they need it, generally by the time we finish having a conversation with them, or the attorney finishes having a conversation with them, they really understand the importance of it, because arguably purchasing a home is going to be the biggest investment of their life, whether it's their first home, or they're investing in real estate as a course of routine business. You want to protect that investment, so it would be silly to not, purchase a policy and have that at risk. And again, if you're getting a loan in the state of New Jersey, you have the requirement where you have to purchase title insurance, but it really is so important at the end of the day. And, it's not something that's often talked about, but it's easily one of the most important facets of the transaction.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, that was some really, really great info. And if somebody wants to reach out to you directly for more information, how can they get you?
My cell phone is 973-919-9905. And we encourage clients, if they're just going under contract or attorney review, we generally get involved. We're usually contacted after the client gets out of attorney review, but if people have questions that pop into their mind, whether it's service-based questions or just general process questions, we encourage people just to reach out to us. You can call, text, send smoke signals, we're here. And, we just want to put them at ease.
I think your website, too, has some really good closing cost estimators that I've checked out for some of my clients. That's a question we get all the time, is like, what am I going to have to bring to the closing table? How much, do I need to be prepared in addition to my mortgage? What do I need to know? So what's your website? How can they find you there?
It's just realsafetitle.com, www.realsafetitle.com. We have a few different tools on there. We have a client who's a purchaser. We have an estimator for both mortgage and cash purchases. With mortgage purchases, I generally tell clients to definitely speak to their lender first, because everybody has a different rate. they might be paying points, different criteria for that. But when it comes to a cash purchase and even a seller, we have a great seller net sheet tool on there that they can utilize to see what they're looking at as far as deductions and what they're expecting to bring to closing as a buyer or receive after closing for a seller. And we do have a title quote option on there too, but we would certainly encourage clients to call us directly and then we can walk them through it.
Great. All right.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you
We
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on our website, skylandsrealestate.com. I'm Darcy Hunter. My cell phone is 973-907-6042.
And I'm Vera Lewandowski. You can reach me at 973-615-3960.